Welcome to AZ TechCast, sponsored by the Arizona Technology Council, with your hosts, Steve Szylstra and Karen Nowicki. AZ TechCast is dedicated to covering innovation and technology in Arizona and beyond. Broadcasted monthly, AZ TechCast invites leading experts to have real conversations about what is happening in the tech sector across the state of Arizona. From regional news to innovative startups, companies, and emerging technologies, AZ TechCast covers the critical issues and economic trends propelling the state's growing tech ecosystem.
Today, we are diving into the dynamic world of clean energy, clean water infrastructure, and sustainability, exploring the latest innovations and strategies driving the energy transition forward. Today, we're joined by industry experts Dre Thompson, Maren Mahoney, and Earl Collins. Our panel will discuss the vital role green banks play in financing sustainable projects, the importance of resiliency in the face of climate change, and the exciting developments in renewable energy technologies across Arizona. From groundswell capital to the governor's office of resiliency and Cordia. Did I pronounce that correctly? Cordia. I knew the moment it came out of my mouth, I'm going to have to eat that bag. Thank you, Earl. Our panel will share their insights, experiences, and visions for a greener, more sustainable future for our state. Tune in with us today to learn about the challenges and opportunities that exist in building resilient infrastructures, harnessing renewable resources, and driving sustainable practices. I'm Karen Nowicki. I'm the president and owner of Phoenix Business Radio X, and I'd like to welcome you to today's episode of AZ TechCast, sponsored by Arizona Technology Council. I'd like for us to have an opportunity before we dive into the conversation to have each of you share a little bit about yourselves, your background, and how you fit into the tech ecosystem. And I think to warm us up, maybe we'll ask Steve Szylstra to do that for us first. He is our president and CEO of the council and my partner in crime here on AZ TechCast. Can you kick it off for us, Steve?
Thank you, Karen, and it's a pleasure to have our guests here today. I think this will be a robust conversation about energy, especially clean and renewable energy. First, the Arizona Tech Council is a statewide organization. We're a trade association representing science and technology-based enterprises. We have about 750 member companies, and we do public policy advocacy at the state and federal level. We do over 100 events a year. We have lots of publications. We negotiate lower cost products and services for our members. And one of the things that we focus a lot of our energy on is energy. Probably been involved in the policy side of energy for about 10 years and really stepped it up over the last 5 years. And the reason is we have a lot of major advanced manufacturers and data centers that use lots of power. And they are today demanding that 100% of that power come from clean energy. A lot of that is because their employees and stockholders are demanding that. In addition to that, we have a broad collection of companies that are in the industry. We have battery manufacturers. We have electric vehicle manufacturers, photovoltaic manufacturers. Those are solar panels, and then solar companies in general. So we represent them in many ways. And so we've been heavily engaged and involved in this topic.
Mm-hmm. Wow, great introduction. And as Earl and I were walking through the co-work space here at MAC 6, I pointed out that SciTech Institute sits not too far from the studio. Would love to have you just give a little shout out to that portion of your team.
Sure. The Arizona Technology Council Foundation is called the SciTech Institute. It focuses exclusively on STEM education and K through post-secondary. And we run all kinds of cool programs, including one called the Chief Science Officers for kids in 6th through 12th grade. So a good complement to the Arizona Technology Council.
Yeah, that's all around workforce development, leadership, and interest in STEM. Fantastic. The one thing I didn't think to say, even in our pre-call when we were preparing for this panel discussion, is to, feel free to just jump in. We like to have it as if we're just having a cup of coffee or a meal together, and we wouldn't wait for Steve and I always to be gatekeepers. We will make sure the questions are flowing and ask for deeper questions when needed. At the same time, though, just jump in and keep your microphones on unless we've got some sort of background noise. So here we go. Let's start with either Dre or Maren, doesn't matter to me who goes next, and then we'll finish up with Earl before we jump into the topics. Would love to hear from each of you. Who are you? What role do you play? What organization, company do you represent? And then again, your thoughts on how this fits into the tech ecosystem and why this topic.
Sure. Happy to jump in. So a little bit about me. I'm an attorney. I'm actually coming up on my 20th anniversary from graduating from law school. And then I also have a master's in sustainability from Arizona State University, which was one of, if not the first school of sustainability in the country. And I've worked in a variety of sectors. I've worked in private practice. I was in academia. We're working on an energy policy think tank. I've worked in nonprofits on water and land use conservation, but most of my career is really focused on clean energy and utility regulation. And I've been in this position now as the director of the Office of Resiliency under Governor Hobbs for a little over a year. And when I stepped into this role, there wasn't really a precedent for this office. And so I've really, with my team, have been building it as we go. And we happen to be also in the middle of an unprecedented federal investment opportunity, and which has really underscored and driven, created this purpose in this Office of Resiliency. So we are focused on making a direct difference in Arizonans' lives through growing our state's clean energy economy, protecting and securing our water resources, increasing transportation, and growing our access to outdoor recreation to people who don't necessarily have that access, and also focusing on the health of our forests and grasslands. And so we have a number of policy advisors who provide that analysis on policies to Governor Hobbs. We also have grant management compliance staff and a community engagement coordinator to help us roll out these programs. And also we engage on cross-sector planning to realize Governor Hobbs's vision of a resilient Arizona. So,
And by the way, I think I reached out to Maren within the first week she was on the job, and we probably met within the first couple of weeks. So we've been working together since she's been on the job.
What took you so long to get her on a show? We'll have to talk to Leslie about that. No, just kidding. I'm curious statewide, and I'm sure both Maren and Steve could answer this. What other states, we don't have to list them all, but I have a couple in mind, might have a similar focus? Are there other states that you're kind of following and watching, or are we leading the pack on that?
Well, I would say that we were a little behind under the previous administration. This administration has really taken the bull by the horns. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that the federal government passed the most significant piece of legislation in the history of the world that focuses on clean energy, and that was the Inflation Reduction Act, investing $369 billion in this area. So almost every state has a state energy office. Previous administration shut ours down, and Governor Hobbs didn't create the energy office, but she created the Office of Resiliency that also focuses on water and land use as well as energy.
Yeah, and thanks for mentioning the IRA, because thanks to the IRA, essentially we are looking at administering over $250 million at this juncture. So, which really looking forward to hearing about Dre and Groundswell's work too, because I know that you all have been really focused on the IRA as well.
Well, great kickoff to ask Dre to introduce herself, and then we'll finish up with Earl, and then we'll get into the meat of the conversation. Thanks so much, Maren.
Yeah. Well, I'm just a Maren Mahoney fan, so that's one of my roles. No, I've been really excited to be a part of this moment in history that we're in. It's really exciting and kind of a terrifying moment. So So I'm Dre Thompson. I wear a couple of different hats. One of my hats is the CEO of the Industrial Development Authority for the city of Tucson. And so with that, that's economic development finance. So with that role, really about how can we build a resilient, vibrant economy for Tucson. And so with that, I came on about 2 years ago and worked really closely with my board and our mayor's office to think about what does building a 100-year economic development strategy for Tucson look like. And when you start thinking about economic development and a long-term plan for the desert Southwest, climate comes up again and again. Okay, how are we going to respond? What do we do to build in resiliency to our plans and our strategy? And as we had these conversations, it came up. Arizona was one of the only states that didn't have a green bank. And there was talk about the IRA coming out. And it was very clear that green bank was going to be one of the main ways and one of the functions that funding was going to come through states. So in 2022, the Industrial Development Authority for the city of Tucson launched a 501c3 green bank called Groundswell Capital. And so that is kind of the other hat that I wear that is a statewide entity. So it's a green bank is a mission focused financial institution that is really creating financial opportunity and investment with a purpose to drive sustainable change. And so that's one of so Groundswell Capital is the other hat that I'm going to be talking about more today, because we have been working on a lot of projects with the Inflation Reduction Act. And within the Inflation Reduction Act, there's a particular part called the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund. And that has been just rolled out, and that's $27 billion. So that, that's chump change to the whole IRA, but still quite a lot of funding to work with. And that's something that we're really hoping that Arizona can take a hold of. And my angle with it is really through the lens of economic development and really the opportunity that we have to build a workforce, to build great jobs, to leverage innovation here, and strong roots to our economy. I have also kind of a mixed background too. So I used to work a lot with startups and have worked with the Arizona Technology Council through Startup Tucson. And I am passionate about our innovation ecosystem here. And then previously I worked a lot with utilities nationwide and looking at energy efficiency and how can we more on the demand side, and how can we build resilience into our grid system. So I have a little bit on both sides of those. So I'm very excited to be here and talk about all of my passions: technology, climate resilience, economic development, and startups. So all in one conversation. So really excited to be here.
It all collides right here. I love it. And I could tell that Steve was smiling when you're talking about the fact that your focus is around economic development, right? It's critical. All right, Earl, see if you can jump in there now. Beat those introductions.
Okay, I'll try, Karen. So Earl Collins, I'm the CEO of Cordia. I'm an engineer by degree. I've been doing engineering and construction for 35 years. Pretty much everything from bridges and light rail. And about 15 years ago, I got into power, doing conventional power plants. And 10 years ago, I got the opportunity to run a company that did renewable power. So large scale wind and solar. And we were talking about kids before we went on air, and I have twin daughters. And at the time they were in high school, and I say, it was the first time they actually took interest in what I did. I was doing something cool. And so I just really decided I was going to spend my last quarter of my career focused on renewable energy and making a difference when it comes to sustainability. So a couple of years ago, I got the opportunity to become the CEO of Cordia. And Cordia has assets throughout the United States. My first big decision as CEO is where do you put the headquarters, and decided to make it here in Phoenix. So we set up shop here in Phoenix. That's really where I got started. I think we'll talk a little bit more about what Cordia does, but it really is a sustainability story. It's taking a technology that's over 100 years old and making it new again and using that to drive the energy transition.
By the way, I didn't mention my credentials.
Right. I thought of that as soon as he was telling us about his. Go
Well,
for that.
I'm also an engineer, mechanical and aerospace. I spent 20 years in aerospace and defense for 4 different contractors. And now the last half of my career, I've spent running tech councils, one in Pittsburgh and one here in Arizona. So I'm going to start with the questions. And I'm going to start with Maren. There was some really exciting news on Earth Day. And it's a program called Solar for All, announced by the EPA. Can you talk to us a little bit about what that entails, and then what the Office of Resiliency is going to do as a consequence of it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It was super exciting news. So Governor Hobbs has prioritized growing our clean energy economy. And so she really, gave us the charge, go after these competitive grants that will help us do that. So Solar for All is a major milestone in realizing that vision. And so back in October, the Office of Resiliency, with many of our partners, including Groundswell, we submitted a proposal for Solar for All grant. And then, as you mentioned, Steve, on Earth Day, we were announced as one of 60 selectees, which was out of 150 applications to receive a Solar for All grant for Arizona. This is a pretty exciting award. It's $156 million. And we're going to work with our partners to ensure that these funds serve families and Arizonans who aren't served by the market currently. Really wanting to focus on people like first-time home buyers and also people who rent. Currently, they don't really have access or aren't seeing direct benefits of distributed solar batteries for their homes. So we think this transformational grant will really deliver benefits of solar to thousands. We're estimating about 11,000 working class Arizonans through offerings like solar installation grants and low interest solar loans. One of the exciting programs that we have proposed was also something called neighborhood solar. This is something we came up with, which is sort of like community solar, but our current policy context here in Arizona does not really allow for community solar in the traditional sense, which that's a third-party ownership and operation. So we're going to work with utilities who are interested, and we're interested in working with tribal utility authorities, but also anyone else as well, who would be interested in developing and deploying 5 megawatt solar plant, roughly that size. And then siting them close to low income communities, and then having those communities get that direct bill credit so that they can see the bill savings from solar. And that's a program where we see an opportunity to reach renters who are, like I said, aren't really reached through distributed generation currently. That's a little bit about Solar for All in terms of the state. The Greenhouse Gas Fund, as Dre mentioned, is a bigger pot, and so Solar for All is one pot of funds from the Greenhouse Gas Fund, and so we're looking to how do we leverage that with our partners, because we know there's a lot of private investment possibility as well. We know that our green bank, our state's green bank, will be able to play a big role too. So that's where what we intend. Obviously, there's some negotiations that have to happen now in the wake of this announcement, but that's what we're looking forward to deploying. Before, I'd also want to mention the state of the other entities in Arizona as well received some Solar for All grants. The Hopi Utilities Corporation, for instance, got $25 million to deploy distributed solar for the Hopi tribe. And then there's an organization called Grid Alternatives that received about $62 million to serve tribes in several states, and that's including Arizona. So Our tribal communities are also, getting some of these funds, which is much needed, and it's very exciting to see these funds being deployed in so many different locations. So.
Thank you for that. Dre, there's been some news in your business too, both for your bank and green banks in general. Can you tell us about that? And also, what is a green bank?
Oh, yeah. That's always the question. My niece, who's 10 years old, she's like, what is it that you do? So I always try to think, well, what is the simplest way that you could explain it? And a green bank, again, financial institution, we have a mission, and we are really trying to, I would say, well, this is a techie audience. I would think, you guys are engineers, about inertia, right? The tendency for things to just want to stay the same. And so what a green bank really is trying to do is think about how can we realign incentives for businesses and for projects to change and think about doing business in a slightly different way. And so part of that is financial incentives. And so a green bank comes in with financial incentives to realign and push inertia so that people start thinking about sustainability and so that we can make transitions to clean energy and do new ways of doing business. And what our hope is that it's a win-win-win for everybody. And so as a financial institution, we're obviously looking to protect our capital. So we are primarily debt capital. So while Solar for All is very exciting because there's get to be grants and we really get a focus on low income populations. And so Solar for All is a really exceptional in the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund because we can really reach down and get to those low income and folks and families that really could use support through grants. Some of the other Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund is really looking at more commercialization and how can we come in to make deals pencil. So we are patient capital, we're affordable capital, but our intention is that we understand this is not going to be coming around again. So how can we make this funding last through low interest loans? How can we come in as debt capital that is affordable and accessible, but can really come in as a partner through public and private partnerships. So we work with traditional banks alongside traditional banks, but again, to push the incentives into a more sustainable direction. So that's a little bit about what a green bank does. And then, yes, so the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund was $27 billion. Then it is broken up to a couple different pieces. So the national, what is kind of being called colloquially, the National Green Bank is $14 billion. We're part of the Coalition for Green Capital, and our coalition was successful with $5 billion of that. And what we're going to be doing over the next few months is finding projects in Arizona that are clean transportation, net zero building, and also clean energy generation and storage. And we're going to find ways that we can finance these projects, put them into the pipeline, make the request of the $5 billion, and get as much of that $5 billion into Arizona as possible in the form of low interest capital. So that's one of the exciting announcements that we got. The other one that we got is really thinking about the nexus of clean energy and water. Obviously, that's very interesting to the desert climate, and there is. In order to pump water around, you use a lot of energy. And so there is a lot of ways in which water resilience is very interconnected with clean energy. And so we were selected as one of 6 green banks in the country to focus on how we can use this Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund to fund clean and equitable water projects. And so clean drinking water, water resilience, and so drought resilience projects. And so that's a lot of what sort of is unique about Groundswell Capital is in addition to clean energy, we have a lot of tools at our disposal for water financing as well. And so that was very exciting. We're funded by the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. So that was a competitive process and only 6 green banks in the country were selected. And we're excited as a new green bank that we got to be selected among some of the greats, which is the Connecticut Green Bank, which is kind of the big fancy one. So we're excited to be at the table. So that is some of the big exciting news that we are really putting Arizona on the map and really aggressively ensuring that we're represented and that we are getting our fair share of this, monumental capital, and making sure that our businesses are knowledgeable about what are the resources available to them, and making sure that our projects are going to be benefiting from this federal investment.
Mm-hmm.
The nexus between water and energy is integral here in Arizona in a lot of ways, a lot of hydroelectric and so on. But I heard the other day that a project just got approved, and maybe they've already broken ground, to put solar panels over our canals.
Yeah, I was
with the idea of minimizing evaporation, and you're putting them in a space that's already being used for something else. It seems like such a practical solution. Do either of you know anything about that?
Yeah. So that was the Gila River Indian community that has installed those. I think it's the first in the world. Do you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. And the Gila tribe is amazing. They're the first net zero tribe. Well, they are moving towards being the first net zero tribe in the country. They're incredibly forward thinking in their resource management and their embracing of technology and innovative ideas. So the Gila tribe is very, very inspiring to me.
I'm watching Earl chomp at the bit to join in there. Are you're familiar with this as well?
I am, yeah. Well, I walk along the canal every day, so I'd be interested to see how that develops. But yeah.
So with your company and the way in which you guys show up with energy solutions, how do you see yourself fitting into all of these clean energy initiatives that we're discussing?
Yeah, so I mean, we've been in Arizona for quite some time. We have a small district energy system in Tucson. We have a microgrid at the university here in Tempe, and then we have a large system in downtown Phoenix. And so we think that our way to participate is to show how district energy, which I said, it's a technology that's been around for over 100 years in the U.S., how that contributes to that. So district energy. For those of you that don't know what it is, I guess the best way to think about it is a central plant, and many universities have a central plant, and so we have 3 plants in downtown Phoenix, and what we do is we make ice, use that as a thermal battery. So at nighttime, when electricity demand is down and electricity pricing is down, we're able to make ice. And then during the day, we're able to use that as a thermal battery to cool 46 buildings in downtown, including the convention center, Chase Field. If you go to a Diamondbacks game and you enjoy the temperature, well, that's what we do. But we do that across the company or across the country. But a large part of that is here in Arizona.
Maren, how does the Office of Resiliency work with organizations like Cordia and Green Bank and other organizations in town? What's the collaboration partnership that goes on between private sector companies?
Oh yeah. So our partners are critical to our success, to Arizona's success. We regularly meet with our partners to update people on the activities that are happening at the Office of Resiliency, to solicit their perspectives and get a better understanding as to what's happening in different parts of the state, what's happening with different parts of our industry and our economy, to better inform our policy analysis and to better inform what grants we think we should go after. Like I said, our grant proposals right now, that's one of our key really focuses. And so we are working with our partners on proposals. We're not going it alone in any way. We're looking at how do we get our dollars out to our communities. It's generally through our partners and our partnerships, like Groundswell, like Cordia, community-based organizations. We work closely with our universities here in the state.
Yeah, and this is where I'm fangirling a little bit. This is where I think the Office of Resiliency has been such a good job. have been on some of their listening sessions and working with installers. I mean, I feel that the grassroots communication that they do with communities, rural, urban, is exceptional. I mean, and it's a small office, but the amount of coverage that they get statewide has been, I mean, monumental. I think it's pretty incredible how much feedback they've been able to get from communities. And so I think that's not always been the case. And I think it's a very distinct flavor of this office is the level of community engagement I've not really ever seen anything like it, really. And this is coming from Tucson, where we always have a little chip on our shoulder. We're like, no one ever talks to us. So it's just really exciting to feel so engaged and so listened to. So I feel like that's been an incredible thumbprint and sort of signature of this office has been from, installers to manufacturers to, families to everyone down the line to businesses. I feel like they've been really engaged in the formation of all the programs, and stakeholders have had such a voice in how they're shaping, which I just think is very unique.
Thank you, Dre. I think we're going to go to commercial, and when we come back, I have a question for Earl.
Okay.
Excellent. All right. So on that note, we want to thank Arizona Commerce Authority, who is AZ TechCast's 2024 premier sponsor. Let's hear from Arizona Commerce Authority.
Our streamlined pro-business approach helps you achieve more by putting less between you and future success. Less red tape, lower taxes, less distance separating you from the tech leaders of tomorrow. This innovative ecosystem will supply your business with tools and resources to compete in the 21st century and beyond. But your future is more than just business success. In Arizona, the lifestyle you want is at your fingertips. Explore cities known for their Southwest heritage and modern vision. Enjoy beautiful scenery and endless outdoor activities on land, water, or snow. And if you're looking for a little friendly competition, we've got plenty of teams to choose with constant sunshine, vibrant culture, and natural wonder. Arizona provides a style of living that's entirely unique. People from all over the world call our state home. From student leaders who fill the classrooms of our top-ranked universities, to a skilled and abundant workforce that's ready for what's next, to the neighbors, friends, and peers we interact with daily, Arizonans are united by a pioneering spirit that moves us forward. So as you look to the future, know that it's filled with the perfect balance of innovation and high-quality living that makes life better here.
All right, we're back. Earl, you talked about energy districts and told us a little bit about that. You mentioned microgrids. Can you talk to us a little bit about what that is, what it means?
Yeah, so microgrid is really a smaller subset of what district energy is. Oftentimes it includes electricity. So you're generating electricity, you're using the waste heat to generate steam, you're doing cooling, but it's for a subset of buildings. So we have a microgrid for a hospital, for instance, and we generate all the electricity to run the hospital. We use the waste heat to make steam, for their heating and the steam needs. We also provide cooling. Now they have a grid connection, so they have some redundancy built in, but the microgrid is their primary source. You talked about data centers. That's a great application. There's some places where a data center wants to be built, but it's 4 years before they can get an interconnect into the grid. And so having a microgrid that can provide that electricity and those services to be able to run that data center is another excellent application.
Very cool. By the way, I used to work in an ice plant when I was a kid.
You did?
Well, ours is like 3 stories below the convention center. So down there is a giant tank, and we fill it up every night.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So how is Cordia participating in the energy transition? And what does that mean for Arizonans?
Yeah, so the way that we're participating is we're really taking something that's old, like I said, we've got some systems that are over 100 years old and really repurposing them, getting away from hydrocarbon. We've got definitive goals in place to be, net zero by 50 and 30% reduction by 2030. And, across our fleet, we're looking for ways to do that. Probably the most progressive thing we have going right now is actually in San Francisco, where we have a big steam operation there, where we're converting what used to be coal-fired boilers, then became gas-fired boilers, and now we're going to convert them to electric boilers. And we're going to use power that comes off of a hydroelectric dam directly to our site. So truly, it'll be green steam. So you'll have buildings in the downtown corridor of San Francisco that'll be carbon zero, running off of hydroelectric power, and it'll be very comfortable steam. We're doing similar things here in Arizona, using nuclear power, renewable power to cool downtown. We've got our 3 plants downtown, and we're looking to build a 4th, and we've got plans for Plant 5 and Plant 6 as Arizona and Phoenix continue to grow. But it just does it in a more resilient way and a reliable way. We like to say we have 5 nines of reliability, so 99.999% reliability. And so I think when you look at days like last year, where we had 31 days above 110 degrees, having that kind of reliability, and a focus on water quality and water conservation, like Dre was talking about. I mean, those are what we're doing here locally.
It sounds like almost everything you do has something to do with saving energy, saving it over using traditional means of getting power just from the grid. Is that an accurate description?
It is. It's it's savings. I think on average we would save 13% for our customers over if they were on a traditional system. But it's also, if you think about the footprint of a building, if a developer is building a new condo, they could put an air handling unit and a cooling tower on top of their building, or they could hook up to our system and use that space for something else, a garden or something else more sustainable than, electrical equipment or cooling equipment.
Very cool. Karen, I think I've been asking all the questions. So
You say that every segment. I don't mind. I'm happy to just tee it off and put an end cap on it and let you handle the rest.
I don't want to be a mic hog.
No, you're good. I'm curious if Maren and Dre have anything to add to the conversation that we have around Cordia and what's going on there.
Yeah. Oh, no, go ahead, Maren.
Real briefly, I was going to say, it sounds like there's a lot of opportunity here for, energy resilience, right? With these microgrids for hospitals, for the convention center. And that's something that we're seeing we're in great need of, right? To develop out our energy system resilience. Especially as we're seeing our utilities are projecting, I think, a 40% increase in demand in the next 10, 15 years. We need that resilience in place as we're seeing hotter summers, longer summers. These are kinds of things that we really need. So this is a great, I think, example of where technology can really pair with and support and help the government reach goals. So resilience goals, for instance, because this is the benefit to all of our society, right? So that's what
totally agree. And in fact, utility companies are embracing it, as they try to decommission coal-fired power plants, get away from that, they're losing load. And so it has to be picked up somewhere. And microgrids aren't the silver bullet, but they are part of the solution. And to the extent that they can help be funded by the IRA, like you talked about, that just makes it even better. But you're right, the demand's not going down. And it used to be where transmission was kind of the choke point, just getting the electrons to where they needed to be. But generation is certainly becoming more and more of an issue as we go forward.
And I saw an announcement by the EPA, I think it was yesterday, that will hasten the shutdown of coal plants in the country. So even more important that we have alternatives.
Dre, did you want to jump in there as well?
No. I'm just really, Maren said it exactly right. Just
No, ditto.
again, the interplay that we really see, and this is why I see sort of the public and the private sector working together hand in hand. And I guess from a kind of customer interviewing sort of perspective, I'm curious, Earl, if your organization has taken advantage of tax credits, or if you have been looking into, because part of the Inflation Reduction Act has also done things, increased tax credits for generation. And so I'm just curious if that's something that your organization is looking into, and if that's something that you guys, has weighed into some of your business decisions.
Absolutely. And it's, being driven a lot by our customers. They're asking, hey, what can we do to help finance our projects? How can we get these off the ground? It's a thick document. It's a lot to go through. And we've got a team that are doing that, and some outside counsel that's helping us go through it. But we absolutely want to take advantage of it, both for ourselves and for our customers that are looking to, have more sustainable systems and, use what the government has provided to make that happen.
I think that's the biggest challenge that we're in right now, just because there is so much coming at everybody. How do we make it simple? How do we break it down? So, when I'm in conversations with developers, with business owners, okay, just make it simple for me. I'm a CEO. How does the IRA impact me? How can I take advantage of this? What do I need to know? What can I do now? That's for me has been the biggest challenge, is how do we take this massive legislation and make it simple? How do we talk about it in terms of how is it going to influence my business? How is it going to influence my family? Because it can be overwhelming. We live in it all the time, and it's overwhelming to us, and we have professionals that are helping us wade through it. But I think that's the big challenge is making it very real, very tactical, because this will result in thousands and thousands of dollars of savings for our small businesses, for our families. And what I really like about the Inflation Reduction Act and the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund is that it helps us tackle multiple challenges that we're already trying to do in Arizona: affordable housing, making Arizona a great place to do business. So I like the way that it's very intersectional, and it's not just for people that are already bought and sold into sustainability, and they're already going to do solar panels because they love it. This is for all the people that are like really on the fence, and now they're like, well, actually, this now makes business sense. Let me go ahead and do this, because now I'm seeing the incentive, and this does make sense for me. This makes sense for my family. This makes sense for my business. So, but they're not going to do that if they don't understand it. It's not clear, and we don't make it really simple. So that's the challenge for those of us that are in the business right now, is to make it clear.
For our listeners, we have a partner. They're probably a partner of all of us, called Local First. And Local First is doing exactly that, Dre, for small businesses, trying to really simplify this, because there's lots of opportunity for small and medium-sized businesses as well from the IRA. And it is, as you said, complex and thick. We all know how thick the documents are. So making it simple for both homeowners and small businesses is critical. And Local First is all over that.
Yeah.
And Local First.
Oh, yeah. Thomas does his show, Arizona Good Business, here, and Kimber Lanning's been on with us several times, focusing on so many things that impact our community. On that note, Dre, you kind of alluded to some of the challenges facing our state in this space. What else? I want to hear from all of you. What other challenges are we looking at? And then with your respective organizations, what are you doing to meet those challenges?
Where to start?
Do we have an extra hour? No.
We have a lot of challenges. We've got some, air challenges. We've got water resource challenges. Our wildfire season is no longer a season; it's year round. So I don't think it's a secret that those are challenges that we're facing. It's not just Arizona; it's everywhere, especially in the West. We're all facing this. So I think just generally, we need to wrap our heads around the risk, some of our risks that we're facing as a state, and then identifying a clear pathway towards mitigating those risks. And so I think at this point, there hasn't been that policy certainty at a state level in terms of tackling and identifying and mitigating risks. And so, I see this as an opportunity. And then as we go forward and identifying this and understanding the real depth and breadth of the challenges that we're facing, where the opportunities, how can we bring in these enormous, these federal funding opportunities to really fill in, to help us mitigate these risks and to find those opportunities. So, Dre's alluded to, or has mentioned, workforce development. There's workforce development opportunities on all of those challenges. Water, we need people to better understand our water systems and to develop new data sets. Same thing with energy. Our energy systems really we need people at all levels to better understand how they operate, and then how can we optimize them. We need people to be able to help us deploy these distributed solar systems and install them properly. And we need people to install new energy efficiency measures and electrification. We've got rebates coming down the line for that as well. So just, there's a lot of opportunity, but yeah, just going back to your question, I think the challenges is, we know what the challenges are, we've identified them, but the breadth and the depth, I don't know if we have a full understanding. And then how do we work in a cross-sector manner, to address those challenges. And then I layered in another thing in there about policy certainty. There really hasn't been a lot of policy certainty for businesses to innovate on. And I think I would really like to see that happen at a much greater pace. I think Governor Hobbs has really, supported a more a government that will tackle challenges head on, and that requires policy certainty for our businesses.
I want to add on to that. I'm really going to go bold here when it comes to challenges. One of our major challenges right now is the Arizona Corporation Commission. The majority of the commissioners have put many barriers in front of the deployment of solar in Arizona. So I'll remind our listeners there is an election coming up, and that's where we can make a difference. Same thing is happening at the legislature. As you know, we work down at the state legislature, and a lot of times we're able to kill some of these bills that are sort of anti-solar, but some of them get to the governor's office, and when they do, fortunately, she's been vetoing them. So the policy front is really critical to the future of clean energy in Arizona. And right now we have some major challenges on that front.
Yeah, I'm glad you said it. The Arizona Corporate Commission this year is probably we got some really big, important things on ballot. So, it is a very, very important one. And it is possible that their Inflation Reduction Act dollars could be blocked from coming from Arizona. So it's really, really important that people pay attention to this election, and they really pay attention to this election. So I'm glad you said that. I think my perspective, I grew up in Arizona. I love Arizona. Looking at the broad scope of economic development in Arizona, I think we've reached for a lot of boom and bust economy strategies for so we have these high highs and we have these really low lows. And my vision for Arizona is that we grab some core industries and that can help us just have a stronger bedrock. And that's why I'm so excited about clean energy, because I think right now we are leading the pack on this, just what we've done with the CHIPS Act. And we have a confluence of strategic alignment with our resources, with our talent, with our positioning, that this could be our bedrock. This could be our industry that really gives us a stable, steady platform to build better education, better, better jobs, and just give us that big lift that Arizona has never really quite had, because we've had periods of great wealth and then just periods where we had such poverty, and it takes us so long to come out of it. And so for me, this is, as as someone in a financial position, my biggest goal to do with the Inflation Reduction Act is to make sure that every one of these dollars stays in circulation in Arizona for as long as possible. And so, I don't think this is coming back again. So I want to make sure that, one of the things that we're working on with the Solar for All program is to find a revolving evergreen component of it, so that we can build a $40 million sustainability fund from this that will be a resource and an asset for Arizona forever. That's the type of legacy building that we need to do with this type of investment, long-term visionary planning. And that's what I really hope to accomplish with this funding, as someone who loves Arizona, but has seen it go through this up and down and up and down. And I think we're so well positioned to use clean energy to propel us to that next level of generational wealth building that we need to lift up our vulnerable communities.
Earl, challenges?
So I think our challenge is really bringing all the stakeholders, some of which you just talked about. It's regulators, it's the government, it's the financial community, it's developers, educating them on what we do. I think that it's just so easy to go and build something and not really build sustainability into it, and hooking into our system is a sustainable way to provide a service to your building. But it's also, microgrids. It's taking current technology and educating people on, how this can be applied in a way that is sustainable. And so I think we're getting there. But there's no question. I mean, Arizona's growing, and you just drive around and see all the cranes in the air. I mean, we're going to have a huge need for electricity. I mean, our cooling is going to only grow. It's not going to, get smaller, and so we have to do it in a way that's responsible. And we're, that's our business model, and we're, looking to do that. But we're going to need help. We're going to need help from the government side, the regulators, the financial community, and developers that are looking to build in this area.
You made a good point. Growth itself is a challenge, both for water and for energy. Just to give you a feel for what's going on, this will probably be the fourth year in a row that we've had more foreign direct investment than any other state in the United States. So in 2022, it was $58.5 billion, which I think was like 3 times any other state. This past year was $32 billion. TSMC just made a $25 billion announcement, and we're only just through the first quarter. Mm-hmm. This is growth like we have never seen before, because it's not just these plants that are being built, but retail and housing and everything associated with it. Everybody needs power and water, right? So the growth itself is creating challenges. Now, probably better challenges to have than some others that Dre referred to earlier, our boom and bust economy that we've had for so long. But I think we have to keep an eye on all that.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And when, you talked about, the chip factories, and, the fact is these AI chips, they are power hungry. They use a lot of power, and that's what's going in. They produce a lot of heat. You've got to figure out how to deal with that. And the growth of EV also plays into it. That's taking more electrons off the grid, so we've got to replace it. So there's a lot of growth in many aspects when it comes to the electrical grid.
So we've talked about the challenges. I have a question for each of you, and that is, what makes you really excited about going into work every day? Maren, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, well, every day is a new adventure. I get to meet new people. I get to tackle these really important, big challenges and develop new opportunities like that directly impact Arizonans' lives. I mean, there couldn't be more of a feeling of gratitude to the people of Arizona who have entrusted this work and allow me to come in and get to work with people like you all on these issues. So I mean, it's a constant, like I said, it's a constant adventure and a lot of intellectual challenges, but getting to have a real impact on people's lives is like so gratifying. So,
Dre?
Yeah. There's just a very historic nature to this moment, and it's not lost on me. It's very exciting, and green banks are a new industry, a new field, and working across the nation with other green banks. We're all on calls together, figuring it out together. It's very collaborative, really smart people putting all of their energy into energy. I could use that one too.
That's twice now.
That's twice.
I feel like you should have a drink when you hear that word.
Right, exactly. But into solving this, and it feels like our moonshot, and it feels like the most important thing that we can really be working on is this issue. So it feels really exciting.
Yeah, I guess for me, it's just knowing that I get to work with a team that's based here, but we're from San Diego all the way out to Princeton, New Jersey, that have a similar focus on, how do we make the planet better? How do we do our part? And that drives them every day, which, gets me excited to be, part of that team. Locally, we have people 24 hours a day, 365 days a year that are looking at the weather, that are looking at the needs of downtown. How do we keep it cool? How do we provide for essential services and do their part? And they do that in a way that, we don't miss a beat, and we keep service going. And I think they make it pretty exciting to come to work to have people like that are that dedicated.
That's a cool story. Do we have time for one more question?
I would like to do that, but it's going to be a lightning round.
Okay.
Are you thinking what I'm thinking? What's the future?
Yeah.
Yes. So what do you see happening in Arizona, of course, and beyond, let's say the next 5 years
5
or
years.
so? We've done a lot of having a conversation around what's happening right now. What challenges are we up against? What's next? What do you predict?
Well, I predict that this ship has sailed and it's not turning around. And I believe that you've got people that are dedicated and dedicating their lives. You got a government that is behind this. And I think Arizona is leading the way. Maybe not at the front of the pack, but not very far behind. And I don't think it's going to change. And you're going to see people that are putting more solar on their houses. You're going to see more renewables being built. And there's a reason why companies want to come here, is because, we've create that environment, and they have their own goals for net zero, and we want to help be part of that.
Yeah, great. How about the two of you?
I think, agreeing with Earl, Arizona's got real momentum here. And we are in the middle, as Dre mentioned, we are in the middle of a historic moment. Right now, we are facing significant, challenges. Climate change is not slowing down, where we need to meet this moment. And I think Arizona is. I think we need to, keep up the momentum and even increase it. But I see, sitting here with, my colleagues and partners here, we are here meeting the moment. And I think Arizona will be doing that.
Dre, you want to finish us up?
Gosh, yes, I do hope that the next 5 years is a big moment of transformation for Arizona, where we sort of kick off the sleepies in some of the areas that we've had, and we really focus on leveling up and reaching our full potential, because we have a lot of potential, and I think the time is now.
One of the things that I'm taking away from what you had shared earlier, Dre, is really this is as much about education as it is everybody now coming forward around a sustainability. And it used to be just those pockets, the popular pockets, or really the unpopular pockets. And now everybody is really needing to link arms and be part of this conversation. So thank you all for making that happen today here on AZ TechCast. And for our listeners, we are here every month, once a month, and go to AZ Tech Council's website for an opportunity to look back at some of the previous conversations. I can't help but think many of the conversations we've had recently have been around similar topics, and a great resource coming from our AZ Tech Council.
And this was our 49th podcast.
We're getting close to
We're getting
50.
close to 50.
Yep. Balloons and confetti next time. And hopefully Leslie will be back to at least be listening from home with the new baby. So shout out to Leslie to thank her for putting these programs together. And she'll be taking a leave for a little bit to spend time with her family and her newborn. So we're sending you off with a great blessing as you do that. If you're interested in being a podcast participant or a sponsor for AZ Tech Councils, to AZ TechCast, then please contact marketing@aztechcouncil.org to learn more about opportunities to further position you as a tech expert, influencer, and innovator. Until next time, I'm Karen Nowicki, and thank you again for listening to AZ Tech Council. And I did that so quickly while reading my notes, I forgot to pull up my outro. Here we go. We're out. Have a great day.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of AZ TechCast with Arizona Technology Council, featuring leading tech and business experts that help influence and shape our great state and the industries they serve.